Everybody knows the cars from Tesla. Everybody knows Autopilot. Everybody knows Optimus, the humanoid robot that walks across stages and folds laundry on command. But there is a technology far bigger than any of that. Something almost nobody talks about. Something hiding in plain sight behind every headline about Elon Musk. And here is the real question. The one nobody in the mainstream media seems to be asking. What if the most important technology Tesla has ever built is not a product at all? Think about that for a second. Every company we obsess over sells us something we can touch. A car, a phone, a robot that shakes your hand. But somewhere in Texas, behind chain link fences and security badges, Tesla has been quietly building something you cannot touch. Something you cannot drive. Something that never once appeared in a keynote demo reel. And according to Tesla's own disclosures, this invisible thing might be the actual engine powering everything else the company does. So let's go back a few years because this story does not start where you think it does. It starts with a project called Dojo. Remember Dojo? For a while, Dojo was the golden child of Tesla's future. Analysts on Wall Street, including Morgan Stanley's Adam Jonas, floated numbers so large they sounded like typos, suggesting Dojo alone could add as much as $500 billion in enterprise value to Tesla. $500 billion. That is more than the entire market value of most Fortune 500 companies combined into one supercomputer bet. Dojo was supposed to be Tesla's secret weapon, a custom-built supercomputer designed from scratch to train self-driving neural networks faster than anything NVIDIA could sell them off the shelf. The pitch was simple and seductive. Why rent someone else's brain when you can build your own? For years, this was the story investors clung to, the hidden moat nobody else could cross. But here's the twist nobody saw coming, and it is the kind of twist that should make you question every confident prediction you have ever heard about technology. Reporting from Reuters in 2025 revealed that Tesla effectively shut Dojo down. The team that built it, led by a key architect of the project, left to start their own company. Tesla pivoted publicly and quietly at the same time, away from Dojo and towards something called AI5 and AI6, its next generation of custom inference chips. Now pause here because this is exactly where most coverage stops. The headline said Dojo is dead and the story moved on. Case closed, right? Wrong. Because what actually happened is not that Tesla abandoned its bet on artificial intelligence infrastructure. What happened is that the bet got bigger, more complicated, and far more interesting than a single supercomputer ever could be. So if Dojo was not the crown jewel, what is? Let's start peeling back the layers because the answer is not one thing. It is a stack, a system, a loop that feeds itself. And the first piece of that loop is something called Cortex. Cortex is Tesla's in-house training infrastructure, the data center brain that takes in mountains of driving footage and turns it into smarter software. According to Tesla, Cortex-1 is already in production, and Cortex-2 is currently under construction, with plans to more than double the company's on-site compute capacity in Texas by 2026. That is not a rumor. That is Tesla telling its own investors in plain language that it is racing to build more brainpower on-site, in-house, under its own roof. But a brain needs something to learn from, and this is where the second piece of the puzzle comes in, and honestly, it might be the piece that matters most. Fleet learning. Every single Tesla on the road, every single one is a rolling sensor platform, quietly gathering footage of intersections, pedestrians, weird construction zones, and the thousands of strange edge cases that no engineer could ever dream up sitting at a desk. Tesla claims its global fleet can collect the equivalent of more than 500 years of continuous driving data every single day. Let that number sink in for a moment. 500 years every 24 hours from cars that are simply doing what cars do, driving people to work and back home. This is the part nobody puts in a highlight reel because there is nothing to film. You cannot point a camera at data being uploaded from a car in a grocery store parking lot in Ohio. There is no dramatic reveal, no stage lighting, no applause. It just happens, silently, millions of times a day, and it feeds directly back into the same Cortex system that trains the next version of the software running in your car. Now here is where the story starts to widen into something almost cinematic in scale, because none of this matters if the chips inside the cars cannot actually run what the software demands. This brings us to AI5 and AI6, the custom silicon Tesla is designing entirely in-house rather than buying from an outside vendor. Tesla says AI5 is expected to deliver a 50 times performance improvement over the current AI4 chip, with AI5 and AI6 slated for production in 2027 and 2028 respectively. 50 times, not 50%, 50 times. If that number holds up in the real world, it means the difference between a car that hesitates at a confusing intersection and a car that that resolves the same situation in a fraction of a second, using far less power to do it. And remember, this chip does not just need to power a car, it needs to power a robot standing in a warehouse, or a robotaxi navigating city traffic without a driver behind the wheel at all. So now we have three pieces: a brain that trains, in Cortex, eyes and ears that never stop collecting, in the Fleet, and a nervous system built to run the results in real time, in the custom chips. But there is a fourth piece that almost never gets mentioned, and it might be the one that ties the whole operation together, and that is vertical integration. Tesla builds far more of its own stack than almost any of its competitors dare to attempt. According to the company, this vertical approach lets its engineers troubleshoot bottlenecks and optimize systems faster than rivals who depend on outside suppliers for critical components. The executive who has overseen much of this software effort previously managed vehicle software, cloud services, and manufacturing systems all under one roof. That is not normal in this industry. Most car companies buy chips from one supplier, software platforms from another, and cloud infrastructure from a third. Tesla is trying to own the entire chain, from the silicon to the factory floor to the vehicle itself. And here's the part that should genuinely surprise you, because this infrastructure is not only steering cars. Tesla says this same technological backbone extends into its energy business. In 2025, the company reported record energy storage deployments, and it revealed that its Powerwall batteries participated in more than 89,000 virtual power plant events, with over 1 million installed units helping homeowners collectively save more than $1 billion. That is not a car statistic. That is a power grid statistic, powered by the same underlying software culture that trains self-driving cars. So ask yourself the question again: what if the real product was never the car? What if the car, the robot, the battery wall in your garage are all just different faces wearing the same underlying brain? This is the moment to widen the lens even further and place Tesla next to the companies people actually compare it to. Because Tesla is not really competing with one industry. It is competing with several industries at once. And that is either its greatest strength or its greatest vulnerability, depending on who you ask. Compare Tesla to NVIDIA, the company that essentially supplies the picks and shovels for the entire artificial intelligence gold rush. NVIDIA sells chips to everyone, which means massive scale, but also means Tesla, by building its own silicon instead, is betting it can do better alone than by buying off the shelf. Compare Tesla to Amazon, a company whose competitive edge comes from infrastructure and logistics network effects most customers never see. Compare Tesla to Google and Microsoft, giants that built entire platforms around artificial intelligence models running in massive cloud data centers open to any developer. Tesla's approach is narrower but arguably deeper, focused entirely on physical machines moving through the real world. Then there is the industrial side of the comparison. Siemens and ABB dominate factory automation and industrial control systems, the kind of unglamorous machinery that keeps global manufacturing running. Tesla is trying to build a version of that instinct into its own factories, treating manufacturing itself as a software problem to be optimized, not just a physical process to be scaled. And finally, the comparison that gets the most attention, the one that shows up in every single headline about global competition: CATL and BYD, the Chinese giants dominating battery production and manufacturing scale at a level that makes American factories look small by comparison. This is where the story becomes geopolitical, not just corporate. China's manufacturing base can produce batteries and vehicles at a cost structure Western companies struggle to match. Tesla's answer is not to outbuild China on raw manufacturing volume. Its answer is to out-integrate everyone, betting that owning the full loop from data to chip to software gives it an advantage no single competitor, east or west, currently replicates in one company. Is that bet going to work? Nobody actually knows, and anyone who tells you otherwise with total confidence is selling you something. So let's be honest about what we actually know, what Tesla claims, and what remains pure speculation, because that distinction matters more than ever in an industry this hyped. Here is what is verified. Tesla has publicly disclosed the existence and progress of Cortex-1 and Cortex-2. Tesla has publicly disclosed its fleet data collection claims. Tesla has publicly disclosed its AI5 and AI6 chip roadmap and target production years. Reuters independently reported the strategic pullback from Dojo. These are documented facts, not rumors whispered in forums. Here is what is industry consensus, not fact. Analysts broadly agree that compute and data infrastructure will be decisive in the race for autonomous vehicles and robotics, though estimates on exact value, like that $500 billion Dojo figure from years ago, were always analyst projections, not numbers Tesla itself confirmed. And here is what remains speculation. Whether Tesla's fully integrated approach actually beats competitors who buy best-in-class components from outside vendors is an open question. Whether AI5 truly delivers that 50 times performance jump in real-world conditions remains unproven until the chips actually ship. Whether Robotaxi and Optimus scale fast enough to justify the enormous capital being poured into this infrastructure is, frankly, still up in the air. Because let's talk about the risks honestly, because a documentary that only tells you the exciting parts is not being straight with you. This entire strategy demands enormous, continuous capital investment year after year with no guarantee of a clean payoff. Execution risk is real. The Dojo story alone proves that even Tesla's own internal bets can be dismantled and restructured with little warning. Regulation around autonomous vehicles remains unresolved in major markets, and any tightening of the rules could slow robotaxi expansion significantly. And competitively, rivals are not standing still. If Tesla's in-house approach stumbles, competitors can simply buy world-class chips from NVIDIA and world-class cloud infrastructure from Amazon or Microsoft, essentially renting the advantage Tesla is trying to build from scratch. So here is a question worth sitting with, and I genuinely want to know what you think in the comments below. If Tesla's real advantage is not a single car or robot, but an entire invisible infrastructure of data, chips, and software, does that make the company more resilient to competition because it is harder to copy a whole ecosystem than a single product, or does it make Tesla more fragile because so much depends on execution across so many moving pieces at once? Here is the honest answer to the question this documentary opened with. The single most important technology Tesla has built is not Cortex by itself. It is not the fleet data by itself. It is not AI5 or AI6 by themselves. Even Dojo, for all the hype it once received, was never the whole story on its own. The real answer is the entire loop working together. Data flowing in from millions of cars, training inside Cortex, running on custom silicon deployed across cars, robots, and energy products, feeding results back into the system to start the loop all over again. That loop is what nobody is talking about because it does not fit into a 30-second clip. You cannot film a data pipeline the way you can film a robot walking across a stage. But according to Tesla's own materials, this loop is what actually powers full self-driving, Robotaxi, Optimus, and the company's energy business all at the same time, all from the same underlying foundation. So the next time you see a headline about a new Tesla car or a new Optimus demo, remember what is actually happening behind the scenes. While the world watches the car, the robot, and the stage lights, Tesla may be quietly building one of the most powerful artificial intelligence ecosystems in the entire industry, one nobody outside the company fully sees yet. And if you want to stay ahead of what is coming next in this industry before it shows up in your own garage, join us here. Subscribe because the next shift might already be closer than anyone realizes.